What is up, everybody? Matt Modi here with Daily Grind Fantasy. We have an electric college football matchup tomorrow, Oregon versus USC. We're all going to be watching it. We might as well have something to sweat out during the game as well, which is what I will be giving you in this video. A PrizePicks DFS play for this game tomorrow, along with an underdog DFS play as well. Both of these entries I found using the Daily Grind Fantasy correlation tool. Amazing, incredible tool, very, very profitable, which we will talk through. I can give you a hint. Our first leg on this PrizePicks one is going to be Bo Nix passing touchdowns. We're taking the over. Oregon quarterback stud. For the underdog slip, we're also sticking with Bo Nix. Our first leg of this entry is going to be him over his passing yards. Just a little bit of a sneak preview for you guys. I first want to talk through the correlation tool in its entirety, talk to you about why it is so profitable and why I highly, highly recommend it. Aside from the fact that the results speak for themselves, which we will get into, just the logic of it makes complete sense. So the correlation tool, if you're completely brand new, the way it works is it finds individual player props that have a positive correlation together, and then it combines them into one single entry for you. So in PrizePicks, your best bang for your buck is going to be a 6-pick flex. We'll get into that in a little bit. For underdog, the best bang for your buck is going to be 5 picks non-insurance. We'll get into that as well. But what it does, so for PrizePicks, it's giving you 6 player props in this Oregon versus Utah game that all have some sort of positive correlation together. My favorite example that I like to give is, I mentioned we're taking Bo Nix passing touchdowns and passing yards, right? Well, if the starting quarterback is going to go over his passing yardage prop, then it's more likely than not that his receivers, one of them at least, go over their receiving yardage props as well. Sure, it's not likely that literally every single receiver does, but if the quarterback does, then individually, it's more likely that the receivers do as well. And it finds different types of examples such as that, and it combines them into one single entry. And the reason why, aside from the fact that getting positive correlation on that kind of stuff is amazing, the reason why it's so cool is if you take a positive correlation, same game parlay on the sports books, we're talking FanDuel, we're talking DraftKings, they're not going to give you the same payout, right? They're going to lower that payout because they're taking into account the fact that you are taking a slip that is correlated, right? That there is some sort of positive correlation. The DFS books don't do that. Every single 6-pick flex on PrizePicks is going to 25x your money, regardless of what individual plays you add. So you could take negative correlated stuff, and you can take positive correlated stuff. You're going to get the same exact payout. For underdog, every single 5-pick non-insured option is going to 20x your payout if it cashes. Doesn't matter what the individual legs are. Any other 5-pick parlay in like FanDuel or DraftKings, especially if they're correlated, it's not going to be that high of a payout. That's why this is so profitable on these DFS sportsbooks, because again, they don't change the payout, which is incredible. Now let's talk about the results. So DGF has tracked every single slip that has shown up on the correlation tool since August 18th. So that's a little over 2 months. Friday, October 27th. Happy almost Halloween. Hope you're all having a great costume for tonight. A little over 2 months, up 345 units. Now think about what that type of profit can get you. What's your unit size? $10? If so, you are profiting $3,400 in roughly 2 months. That's crazy. An ROI of 30.77%. That's crazy. Now, what you need to understand is that variance is to be expected. This graph is a very, very perfect representation of what sports betting is like. It's a little bit up, some downs, mostly up, some downs, mostly up, some downs. Pretty brutal down streak here, then like wild upswings since. That's what sports betting's like. But the results speak for themselves. Tracks every single slip that shows up on the correlation tool since August 18th. Now, I have filtered this specifically for Oregon versus Utah. I can assure you there are a lot more than 4 slips for you guys to lock in, especially now that the NBA is starting. There are a ton. And the more shots at the apple, I'm not sure if that's even the right expression, but the more chances you can take, the more darts you can throw that are actually positive expected value, the more profitable you are going to be in the long run. So that is a 5-minute summary on how the correlation tool works. Gives you plays, individual player props that are correlated together, combines them into one individual slip. Very, very profitable. That's the Spark Notes. Now let's get into our entries. First up, this is the PrizePicks one. As promised, our first leg is Bo Nix over 1.5 passing touchdowns. That is the first leg of our entry, first of 6. Next up, we are taking Tez Johnson to go over 44.5 receiving yards, and we're taking Troy Franklin to go over 75.5 receiving yards. Isn't it great when you're watching a college football game and you can root for overs knowing that they're mathematically profitable? You don't have to just blindly take overs just because you want to root for points. You could do it while having an edge. Then we're taking Bryson Barnes. That's the Utah's like 3rd string quarterback, 4th string, over 164.5 passing yards. Money Parks, which is an awesome, awesome name, over 33.5 receiving yards. Devon Vele over 35.5 receiving yards. So we're taking the Utah quarterback to go over his passing yardage prop. We're taking 2 Utah players to go over their receiving yardage prop. You understand the positive correlation between these 3, right? If he's passing for more yards, someone's got to catch him. Let's hope it's Money Parks and Devon. For the Oregon side, the best value, I guess in this case on PrizePicks, was for Bo Nix passing touchdowns, but we're also projecting him to pass for a lot of yards. We'll get into that with the underdog slip. So we're taking 2 Oregon players to go over their receiving yardage props as well, Tez Johnson and Troy Franklin. This is our 6-leg slip. Now, there are a couple things that I want to highlight here. Number 1, these 2 columns that you see here, profit margin and correlation score. Let's start with the correlation score. So this number, 88.23. You can click this drop down and it tells you what it is. The correlation score is a number from 0 to 100 that shows how correlated the slip is. All slips are going to be correlated. The higher, the better. If you want the math nerd technical definition for this and how it's calculated, it takes into account the correlation coefficient between each leg. That's I like that stuff because I'm a math nerd. All you need to know is exactly what this tells you. So on a scale of 1 to 100, how correlated is this slip? The higher, the better. 88.23 is very good. Now for the profit margin. The profit margin shows you the expected value or ROI of placing a bet on this slip if you win. How is this profit margin calculated? It takes into account the correlation score and it adds up the EV, the expected value of each leg as well. Because yes, you want to make sure that the plays you're taking do have some sort of positive correlation. You also want to make sure that they are positive expected value in general, which in this case they are. So that stuff's important. In terms of profit margin and correlation score, I don't necessarily have a number that I say you should stick below or stick above. Make sure you don't go below this number. If it shows up on the correlation tool, it's probably good to go. Obviously, the higher, the better. So if you just want to be a little bit more selective, then just go for the highest ones and then take out the bottom. But this is our PrizePicks entry. Now, the last kind of educational thing that I want to go over is why we chose a 6-pick flex option. So what I did was I opened up the DFS optimizer. And this is another way you can find plays. Like if you want to bet NBA tonight, go to the DFS optimizer, look for the best NBA player props. But the reason why I went to this page is this little drop down here under plus EV plays. This gives you every single possible option that you can take on PrizePicks. And then it gives you the odds in these little parentheses here. What these numbers are giving you, minus 136, minus 144, is the individual, what the odds are per individual leg. So if you take a 2-pick power on PrizePicks, each individual leg has the implied odds of minus 136. Put those two together, you get a plus 200 parlay. Well, minus 136 isn't good. Neither is minus 144 or minus 140 or minus 132. Minus 128 is fine. You know what's the best number? 5 and 6 pick flex. So the best option when you're playing PrizePicks is 5 and 6 pick flex options, with 6 picks if you can find it being the best. That's what the correlation tool is giving you, a 6-pick flex, and that's why. Now for our underdog slip, as promised, our first leg is the Bo Nix passing yards over 250.5. Everything else is very similar to the previous one. We're once again taking Tez Johnson over 44.5 receiving yards. Troy Franklin, we actually like his receptions over 5.5. Still correlated. If they're passing, someone's got to catch them. And then we're also taking Bryson Barnes over his passing yardage prop as well. So that's the same. And we're taking Money Parks over his receiving yardage prop as well. With that name, how can you not have 34 or more receiving yards? Now, the last point that I'll make, because I know this is getting a little bit long, is you're going to ask, should I take both of these slips if some of them have the same exact plays, right? Like we're taking Tez Johnson for both. We're taking Bryson Barnes for both. My personal advice, and that's all I can give you, there's no textbook correct answer, is that as long as you can accept the increased risk that if one goes under, then both slips lose, I think the answer is yes. Because I mean, if you just look at the correlation tool performance, it tracks every single slip that shows up on here. So it'll track both of these. So yes, you will get screwed if one of them doesn't hit, but more often than not, you just want to give yourself the highest percent chance you have at making money. And this is what that is. Personally, that's what I think. So I think the reward far outweighs the risk and that you should take both. If you're a little bit more risk averse and you just can't swallow that, that's fine. Just take one of the two, the PrizePicks or the underdog one, whichever one you like best. Again, my personal advice is to take both, but I'm not your mom. You do whatever you want to do. But that's it. So one PrizePicks, one underdog entry for Oregon versus Utah. If you're riding with us, comment and let us know. Other than that, remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Appreciate everybody for watching and have a good one.